I did a test to the back of the girl. I'll mute this now so that
I'm more than happy to speak from the back. So.
All right, are we all set? George, you ready? Greg, you ready?
Just a minute.
Good evening, everybody. This is a regular meeting of the Guam Public Utilities Commission. It is 6:40 p.m., August 26, 2021. We have Commissioner Brooks, Guerrero, McDonald, Pete's here, and I'm here, and two commissioners are missing tonight, Mrs. Perez Camacho and Mr. Pangolino. First order of business is approval of the minutes of July 29, 2021.
Motion to approve subject to corrections.
Second. All in favor, say aye. The motion carries. Next item, we just have one issue on the agenda tonight. Fred, we're not ready on GPA docket 2116, correct?
Correct.
Okay. So it's GPA docket 2117, petition to approve the amendment to the contract for residual fuel oil number 6 for the base load power generating plants. We have an ALJ report and a proposed order. Fred?
All right. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. To kind of simplify the issue, here GPA is asking for an amendment to the fuel contract with Hyundai Corporation. And this basically concerns a request to have Hyundai provide 0.2% sulfur residual fuel oil for the baseload power generating plants. But we're really talking about CABRAs. I believe that for the most part that 2% will be going to CABRAs. Yes, that's right. So where we are now, Hyundai has a contract with GPA to supply residual fuel oil. And that contract started in September 2020. It goes through to 2023, and it also has 2 one-year extensions. So that's the specific contract we're looking at. Under the present contract, Hyundai supplies the high sulfur fuel oil, which is 2%, and then the low sulfur residual fuel oil, which is 1.19%. Those are the only 2 types that are supplied right now under the contract. But there are a lot of changes going on proposed with the consent decree that will actually require GPA to provide the 0.2%, the lower fuel oil. And the consent decree, of course, you remember, was I guess imposed on GPA because of violations of the Clean Air Act and otherwise relating to fuel. And the consent decree as it stands right now requires that GPA will use 1.19%, that's the low sulfur fuel oil, when its second tank is finished with its cleaning and restoration. So there are 2 tanks, 1935 and 1934. And right now GPA is in the process of having 1935 cleaned out. And the second tank will be 1934, and I think it's always been anticipated that would be done at the latest by the end of 2022. So the consent decree says that after the second tank is finished, GPA will then have to use the 1.19% low sulfur fuel oil. I think they're actually ahead of the game on that and already using it to some extent. But there are changes proposed to the consent decree, which are being negotiated right now. So GPA and the US EPA have basically agreed that GPA will change to the lower fuel oil, the 0.2%. And US EPA, according to GPA, has already agreed with that. Now, the consent decree has not been formally amended yet, but in all likelihood, it will be, certainly before December 2022. So that particular negotiation is in the process. Once, when the agreement is made, then I think the Justice Department and the district court will have to approve the changes. But it seems as if those changes will become a reality. And a second factor here for GPA is the state implementation plan. That already requires that by April 2023, the GPA switch to the lower fuel oil, which I believe is the 0.2%. So there are basically a number of legal requirements that are going to require that GPA switch to that 0.2%. They're not effective yet, but GPA is being proactive, trying to get ready to do this and make the necessary arrangements.
When will it be required? When will it be required?
Under the consent decree, it's no later than December 31, 2022.
Okay.
But
So
in addition,
a little over a year from.
yeah, but there's another reason why GPA needs to do this earlier. And that's because I mentioned to you the two tanks that they are cleaning out, 1935, 1934. GPA is asking in this petition that it be authorized to amend the contract and use the 2.2% by February of 2022 instead of December. So they're really going to be early. But the reason is that the two tanks being cleaned, and I'd like to read the justification that they've given because I think it explains it pretty well. This is why GPA wants to use the 0.2% in February 2022 instead of by December 2022. And I'm quoting an email that legal counsel for GPA, Mr. Botha, sent to me. GPA will be ordering 0.2% for tank 1935 when it is finished in the February-March 2022 timeframe and phasing out the 1.19% LSRFO. Tank 1934 will be emptied out and when finished will be filled with ultra-low sulfur diesel. So GPA does not want to temporarily put 1.19% in tank 1935 and then have to pay $1 million to clean out sludge before December 2022. So we will go directly to 0.2% RFO. So the problem is with these tanks, you can't really mix different types of sulfur fuel without first cleaning out the tank. So if you're going to use 0.2, you can't just put it on top of a tank that held a 1.19. So it makes a lot of sense. I think their justification seems to be valid.
But what's the cost?
Okay, there is a cost.
And is there an offset? Yeah.
The cost, yes, there.
Because we're going to be paying higher fuel, therefore the LEAC is going to be higher because of that.
Temporarily, perhaps,
Yes.
but I'll explain that. So temporarily, the price goes up. I figured it's hard to get an exact handle on it, but from the figures I saw, it seems like the 0.2% is about 23% more expensive than the low sulfur fuel oil, and even more so than the high sulfur fuel oil. I think I did a comparison where it's not an exact on-point comparison, but I believe under the existing contract, the price might have been about $143 million, and then in 2023, the price would go up to about I believe 160 million. So there is an additional cost, but I guess the response would be, well, first of all, it's not really avoidable because they have to use that fuel oil. I mean, they won't really have a choice, although it's still being negotiated. But I think everybody's recognized that they will use the lower sulfur fuel oil. And then, in addition, these are all kind of temporary costs that will have to be met until the new plant is online. But GPA did supply a chart, which I think I forwarded to all of you, which shows that in 2023, they were estimating a LEAC charge of around 16.7%, but by 2026, it's going down substantially. I believe to about, I want to say 9 or 10 cents a kilowatt hour. And that's based on the new power plant coming online, the solar coming online.
We got one solar that may not come
That,
online.
yeah, that's right. So we don't know exactly, but longer term, when the Cabras plants are retired, then
When you said the new power plant, you mean the Ukadu power
Yes.
plant at Cabras?
well, I'm really referring to the Ukadu one.
The one in Harlem?
At Ukadu.
Or Ukadu?
Ukadu.
The main plant.
The main,
Yeah.
the 190.
That thing will not be done until when? When you-
2024.
What about the power plant at Ukadu, the Ukadu power plant, the 41 megawatt at Cabras?
Yeah, I'm not quite sure on the timetable, but I think that'll be
That's like
a few years too.
both months from now?
GPA?
Grant, do you have an answer to that? Mr. Guerrero's asking if the smaller generating units that would be down in Cabras, when would they be coming online?
They're not scheduled, we've asked if they're gonna come on, they may come online perhaps 6 months earlier. The scheduled deadline for the Udu plant to be done is April 2024. And that's what's in the consent decree as well. So the 41 megawatt diesels, could come on an additional 6 months earlier. But we don't have any confirmation on that.
Thanks, Grant.
There was one other issue I looked at. I just wondered that the contract amendment that GPA has, the main change there is that it would add on the 0.2% fuel so that Hyundai can supply that, because it's not in the present contract. And I wondered, well, is that okay from a procurement perspective? And I think it is. First of all, they're all residual fuel oil. I mean, there's the same basic kind of fuel oil, but just with different sulfur content. So that seems to fall within the contract. There's also a provision in the contract that says when basically GPA is required to follow new regulations or stricter fuel requirements, that the contractor, quote, shall use best efforts to furnish GPA substitute fuel oil, which complies with such governmental laws and regulations. So, there seems to be a provision in the contract recognizing that the type of fuel that has to be used can change. So I believe that the amendment is in accordance with procurement requirements. So overall, I can recommend that the PUC approve this amendment. I believe GPA has demonstrated that the ultra-low sulfur fuel oil is essential to the operation of the Cabras fuel plants. And I prepared an order which would basically approve the determinations that I've indicated. It would approve the amendment to the contract and authorize GPA to enter into the contract.
But just to be clear, Fred, by doing this, environmentally, having the lower sulfur fuel come on is, quote, good environmentally,
Yes.
but it's gonna come at a cost, and I'm still not quite sure how much cost that will be. So if we approve this contract, it will be at a higher cost, and that to expect the LEAC to go up sometime in February in anticipation of this higher cost fuel.
Well, I'm not sure you can assume that now. Of course, LEAC depends not only on that fuel price, but also in general,
But
what are
norm-
the existing fuel prices?
But normally if you're buying, this is like going, instead of using regular, we're gonna use premium from now on, correct?
I mean, that element, you're correct, that element of
So
fuel will be more
premium would
expensive.
normally always be more than regular regardless
Yes.
of the fluctuation.
But if fuel prices, we don't know
No, but
what the
regardless.
fuel prices are
Yeah,
gonna do.
but I mean, if we're gonna buy regular, except from February all the way to December, and then come January 1, switch over to premium, that there's still gonna be a savings regardless of the fluctuation, because regular is always gonna be cheaper than premium.
That's correct,
Yeah.
yes.
Just for clarification in my brain is, actually GPA is not just gonna stop buying high sulfur fuel,
Right,
basically. That's what they're
That's
doing, and everything will be low sulfur, which is pollution 7 times less.
yes.
But when you compare the price of low sulfur and diesel fuel, the regular diesel fuel per barrel, the cost, it's very small difference. You know what I mean? It's like now you went from, for example, regular to premium, now extra premium.
Yeah,
You know, the difference between premium and extra premium would be very small.
I don't think diesel is really involved in this document.
But I'm just saying.
But that'll come up with the
I'm
PD89.
just saying on the price of the fuel.
Yes,
The diesel fuel and the low sulfur fuel is very small. The difference between the prices. So, we have a lot of diesel power plants. CTs use diesel, all the diesel, right? So, if Cabras 1 and 2 cannot use diesel, but will be now using only ultra low sulfur diesel or ultra low sulfur fuel.
yeah, it's not diesel, it's
Right,
residual
I know,
fuel.
it's low sulfur, not high sulfur, low sulfur. I'm just saying, the price of the fuel, when you're operating Cabras 1 and 2, will be almost no difference if you're operating Ukadu, the 41 megawatt, the Greco megawatt, and Jigo, you know, because the prices of the fuel is.
Oh, there'd be a major difference, Pedro, because the efficiency of the new
Oh, no, stop, let me stop. The issue I'm saying is on Cabras 1 and 2, the efficiency, the auxiliary power required to operate 1 and 2 is 7%. Okay, it takes 5 megs to operate the 47, 50 megs. At Ukadu, for the diesel engine, it's only 1%. So your efficiency is almost, if you do the math, it's almost the same. You know, Cabras is not efficient when you're using 5% for auxiliary power.
Well,
what's the point?
as to use Cabras though, GPA's plan is that Cabras 1 and 2 will still be main power
All I'm
providers for
asking
the
is
next 4 years.
For GPA to explore this, look at it, and see whether ultra low sulfur diesel at Cabras 1 and 2, compare it with diesel fuel at our our diesel power plant. Look at the cost, because you need to look at how expensive Cabras is, because you got water treatment, you got auxiliary power, you got personnel.
Well, I understand, there are always questions about plant efficiency.
That's what I'm asking, is for them to explore.
Yeah, and I'm sure I think they have been, but normally,
No, I didn't see that yet.
GPA is the one that makes decisions
I understand.
about what power plants to use, not the
No,
BMC.
I understand that, Fred. I'm just saying, ask them to explore it, see the difference.
Well, Mr. Botha, has GPA been exploring that issue?
We're more than happy to make a presentation, perhaps at the next meeting to the BUC on the efficiencies of the different plants. But, you know, quite simply, I mean, Department of Justice and EPA have approved that. We expect in the next 60 to 90 days, you know, be lodged. You know, usually have to make public comment for 30 days. And so we'd expect in the next 2 to 3 months, the judge will sign it, you know, because it's, we don't expect any opposition to that. But if you recall also that by next May, for PD 8 and 9, that has to be converted. We'll go over to ultra-low diesel at that time. I mean, there's simply no choice on the part of GPA. That's one of the requirements of the consent decree. And even the use of the 0.2%, if you recall now, until December 2021, we'll still burn out the rest of the high sulfur fuel. So the low sulfur and the high sulfur fuel, it's kind of 90% of the time we use the high sulfur fuel, except when the wind blows inland, and 10%.
I'm sorry,
you know.
Mr. Bolton. All I'm asking for is an presentation of the two differences.
We'll be happy to provide
We don't
that.
need to go into.
That's a good question. And I just would like him to finish his response so that everybody will understand.
Yeah, I just wanted to point out that, you know, pursuant to the consent decree, starting in next May, we'll have no choice but to convert the P8 and 9, and then cameras 1 and 2.
You have
by
no
the-
choice, excuse me? You have no choice to do, but
convert
to
8 and 9.
do what?
To convert PD8 and 9 to ultra-low sulfur diesel by next May of 2022, will be on ultra-low sulfur diesel,
That's part of the consent.
part of the consent decree. And
That's
then
the one we all voted on.
by December 2022, we'll also be using the 0.2% in cameras 1 and 2 until it's closed down. Now, we expect that, let's say by April 2024, that the new plant will be online, and 6 months after that, we'll phase out cameras, it will be decommissioned and closed. But what I was saying is, to the low sulfur and the high sulfur, 90% of the time we use high sulfur, the cheaper fuel, and then when it blows inland, the fuel switching requires us to use the low sulfur.
Can you
So-
do that now?
And that's what we do now.
So you do have low sulfur fuel in use now?
That's correct. That's correct.
That's to avoid the pollution coming in.
Right, through PD and, you know, rest areas.
And that's a separate tank already?
Separate tank already, yes.
Okay, so we're going to convert two high sulfur tanks to.
Well,
low
no,
sulfur
one is high sulfur, the other is low sulfur, but we're actually using one at TriStar now because one of the big tanks is out of service. So that's the one that we'll be putting the 0.2% in.
Where's mud?
It's just-
Yeah,
That's
right.
the other document we were supposed to discuss at them, which was the leasing of the additional tank. But Mr. Camacho wasn't ready to do it yet. So,
Any other comments from the commission?
No, show the difference. Presentation.
just on, I'm sorry, I just, I mean, you guys think,
Don't try to deny me, I'm requesting.
I'm not denying anything. I'm just having, it's my turn to speak, I'm not denying anything. I'm just, I was about to say that you guys make a good point. What's the, so, yeah.
Is this a time sensitive issue at all?
Yeah, what's that was the next question.
Graham?
Because, well, let me just finish what I was saying. In terms of whether it's time sensitive, we need to know, because if the cleaning of it sounded like the cleaning of the tank and the sludge was gonna cost $1 million.
If you
But the
switch.
difference between the fuel was about $20 million when you're talking about 140 million versus 160 million. So, you know, where is there any savings in that? Is it, and how time sensitive is this to actually do?
Well, generally we have to give 60 days notice to the fuel folks to, you know, come up with this. I mean, this is kind of a custom blended fuel for us anyways, because Mr. Guerrero is correct. It is close to diesel, because what they do is they take the 0.5% marine fuel that we were trying to use, which would have been cheaper, but when they ran the tests, you know, to see if it would meet the standards in April 2023, it would not. So that's why we had to drop to the lower percentage, 0.2% RFO. And we still need to use RFO in the Cabras 1 and 2 plants because they are unable to burn diesel unless they're converted to. And we already decided that, you know, the cost of conversion for those is millions and millions, and we wouldn't do that simply for a 50-year-old plant. We do need the time to, I mean, at this point, we'd be balancing 4 fuels. We're trying to burn out the fuels that we have, right? So that we don't, to be honest, we don't want to end up with, you know, millions of barrels sitting there of a fuel that we will no longer be able to use. So we're going to try and burn out the 1.19% over the next couple of months that's still left in the TriStar tanks, and then and go to the 0.2%, which we're only going to use when we have to, right, up until December 2022. At that point, we will have burned out all the high sulfur fuel, and all of the 1.19% low sulfur fuel, and we'll only use 0.2%.
So it sounds like you're early to the timetable. Instead of December, you're gonna convert this summer in.
Well, and we have a fuel transition plan, and so that's why we
It
need
sounds
to.
like it's not so much a million versus a 20 million. It sounds like there's more millions of dollars in wasting fuel if you have too much of one fuel that you can't use anymore.
That's correct.
Is that what you're saying?
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
And the boss is here if you want.
We're talking about docket 21 to go through it in this manner rather than looking at the
Three sources of fuel to 5 sources, then down to 1. It's a very complex situation, and our team really went through it to make this happen, because we have to, after we stop bringing in using a certain fuel, for example, early next year we bring in the 0.2% sulfur, right? The one tank that has to be like rehabilitated has the other low sulfur tank, a low sulfur fuel. So we have to burn all of that first over 2 or 3 months, no? Then it can be rehabilitated for 1 year. In the meantime, if we have to burn low sulfur when the wind is blowing inland, we start using the 0.2. No? After we do that, then we're still heading towards December. We have to start burning all the high sulfur fuel, just like 300,000 barrels up in TriStar. To burn all of that at the same time, within the wind conditions, right? Low sulfur, high sulfur, and only bring in 0.2 as needed. So once we burn out all the high sulfur, now we're left with 0.2. So that's why we cannot, we have to burn all the fuel. Otherwise, we're gonna have to put it in barrels and ship it off island, which is, you know, tremendously expensive, no? The diesel fuel, like Graham, and that's the other one, is the 1907 tank. One tank will be holding 1906 will be holding diesel, and that will be supplying PD 8 and 9, because it's going to be converted in July to diesel only, no? Then we have to get ready for the new power plant. And that's what we call ultra low sulfur diesel special, meaning more metals are taking out of the ultra low sulfur diesel so that the plant can run efficiently and run reliably. No? So that's why we need 1907 for the startup phase of the new power plant. Once that happens, start up, then we'll get rid of the regular diesel and only burn the special diesel. And we're hoping because of the volume, the price comes down, see? So between all of this, we have to burn out all the fuel in the tanks, plus all in the lines, so that we don't have to ship anything off island, no? So that's why the process is like this. And then, if the machine is on schedule with April 2024, they gave us until October to burn the balance of 0.2%. See? Then we can retire Cabras 1 and 2 by burning all the high residual fuel oil. So therefore, then we go from 3 fuel, high sulfur, low sulfur, ultra low sulfur diesel, to 5 fuel, 0.2% low sulfur RFO, and ultra low sulfur diesel special. And then we convert everything and burn everything out, and then we end up with 1 fuel. Then we get rid of all the leases, all the tank leases, because we don't need it anymore. The 2 tanks that we have will be adequate to supply the whole island. For everything from the combustion turbine to everything. So it is quite complicated. And,
So how many tanks do you have right now?
right now we only have 2 tanks that we own.
Or how many are you using? Or
1,
leasing?
2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 right now.
And at the end of the day, how many will you need once you go down to 1? Only 2.
All the tanks that we're leasing goes away.
Oh, that's good news.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's.
So that's all the
that's
savings
all the
that is
choices
gonna
we're
come,
making.
all of those will be when the new machine comes on and burning that very efficiently. The others will only sparingly use some of that diesel because almost 80% of the production of the island will be by the new power plant, you know? And about maybe 15-20% by the renewables and the balance by the standby generators. See? Then that's when you see our power costs go down. In 2020, in the middle of 2024, but certainly by 2025, everything now will be one
So
fuel.
who are you leasing the other 6 tanks from?
All the same.
From-
All TriStar.
It's all
Oh,
choices.
TriStar
So
already-
TriStar knows that come 2024 or 5, they'll no longer be in.
That's correct.
Yeah,
TriStar started out Worco.
yeah.
They had all the tankage. They're the ones handling the pipeline, the throughput, everything. But you have to push the fuel and then burn everything. So that's why it's very complicated, and that's why you're seeing the 0.2% to satisfy EPA. Because if everything was on time, like, you know, November 2023, we didn't have to go to the 0.2. But because we're delayed, because of everything in 2024, they didn't, that was their red line. We cannot exceed the SIP implementation plan ambient air quality standard by April of 2023. That's why we have to make some kind of a concession, an agreement to make it happen. And that's why we got all the no penalties, we got the extensions and everything, so both parties are happy, no? So yeah, that'll be the toughest year for us, will be 2023. But the way I see it, it's no higher than what they're 17.7 cents. I think I estimate about we're up to 16. Then the following year, we're dropping in 2024 to about 13. And then in 2025, down to 11, maybe 10 cents a kilowatt hour on the LEAC. So that's the estimate of the plan. Sorry, I lost my breath.
That's the price of the upgrade.
Not COVID though. So.
This was probably a pretty detailed, intricate strategy worked out in using the tanks at certain times and working with EPA and making it all make sense.
Yes, it took a lot of convincing even for EPA. We gave them a lot of drawings. We had our people really study how to do this. Make sure they buy in because they're the ones that are going to have to burn it, not me, you know. And I looked at it and I agreed with the plan. And so that's why we're going through the process now. So we're on track. The bid for the ultra low sulfur diesel special is opening up, I think, this month or next month. So we'll get an idea of the pricing of that one.
Does that answer your question?
And then
No, I still wanna
Still want presentation?
prepare something.
So what was the
Yeah, I'm
presentation?
confused now, Pete. What do you want
Yeah.
about GPA?
Gantt chart, you know, how it works, and schedule, look at it, you know.
yeah, we can, I mean, if you
Explain
want, I
it,
can
it's
have
just-
somebody sit with you and explain. We have all the
No, I
drawings,
just
we have
want
all
a
the things.
presentation to show us, you know, give a chart. Is that hard?
Oh, no, it's not that hard. I have
Okay,
it.
then can we just have that?
Yeah.
Well, he came in, he did.
No, I
here,
understand.
what you had requested, that's why I said
But I
to
don't-
explain it.
I think I tried to explain it the way it is
Right,
right now. It's not gonna make
and
any,
you did.
it's not gonna make
And
any
that's fine,
sense.
but
Yeah.
for my simple mind, you need to show a picture from 2021 to 2024. What's gonna happen at a certain time? How this mechanism will work.
I think that's.
Really, that's all I want.
Okay. I won't, that's your.
Time, does anyone want to make a motion on this docket?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Docket number? Okay. Okay, Pete seconding, Pedro first, Pete second, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Doris, are you aye? Joe's aye, everybody's aye. So the motion passes unanimously. And then, John, can you put together what Mr. Guerrero is requesting, so he has a deeper understanding of the process?
I'll set it up, Mr. Chairman, no problem at all. It's really
Thank you.
complex, and I can agree with Mr. Guerrero that need to see the calculations, the numbers, how we calculated all this, to burn it all off and everything. And we did that so that we can explain that, I'm sorry, to the PUC, I'm sorry, to the US EPA.
Yeah.
Thank you, John.
It's gonna be an interesting, I'm interested in seeing it actually.
Yep.
It's,
No problem at
technically,
all.
it's gonna be very interesting to see how it all flows.
And also, I can show you
Not just you.
the estimate of where the fuel the DA is gonna go over the next several years, to get to where we're going. I made that estimate already.
Okay. Thank you, John. And John, we weren't ready to do 2116 this evening. Mr. Camacho didn't have that ready for this evening, so that should be next one.
That's okay.
Okay. Okay. And I think that's it for GPA. Do you want to give us an update on what's going on with the solar plant up north?
Not really, but.
No, but I think the commissioners would be interested anyway, so.
Okay, first of all, I'd like to update on the Jigo combustion turbine. The testing has been completed, the emission testing is completed, and we're just waiting for EPA now to release it for full operation. But it's available for emergency operation right now until we get the emission. So that's been completed.
How many megawatts is that?
The 20 megawatts.
Okay.
Yeah. So we're better shape now that, the
Remember,
two
just a
things.
short while ago that we were sort of wondering how they could turn that around so quickly.
Yeah.
They've done it.
So Cabras 1, the repair was done, and then the Jigo CT. So yeah, kudos to the team. It was a lot of hard work, but they were able to get it done. On the solar PV, of course, the event of erosion that led to the adjoining properties plus Marble Cave being with mud from the erosion from the plant. And yeah, there was an issue. The contractor Samson should have done some things, and he didn't. Since then, though, remember that happened around the end of July 23rd. They have corrected the erosion control system as per plan, and that's working right now. So really the whole issue now is about mitigating the environmental damage to the properties and all of that. So that's really a DPW responsibility in terms of the contractors, the contractor board and all of that. So my message to DPW and everybody is that really, one, we're not responsible for the plan. We don't own it, so we're not gonna have any liability as a result of any of this. The ratepayers, it's only a power purchase agreement, which means they own the facility. At the end, everything is on their dime. Our contract is minimum bed energy for the first year of about 149 million kilowatt hours at 8.5 cents. In 25 years, at 8.5 cents go to 10 cents. Very low escalator, 1%. Very stable. So my concern is did an estimate for the next 4 years as to, you know, the solar plant with 100 million, 49 million, what does it offset in fuel? So for the first year, and we go, LEAC is coming up in February again, right? This plan was on track and hopefully still targeted to be commissioned by December 6th this year. Then it would be start producing the 8.5 cents, selling it to GPA. That would already help even this period, right? But certainly next year, for the next 2 LEAC periods, the total energy produced is the equivalent of close to $18 million of savings, because it's going to offset a lot of the diesel production. You know, the 140 million. The diesel production is close to 20 cents a kilowatt hour. This is 8.5 cents. So there's $18 million. The second year, well, what it was, goes down because now you're looking at the more towards the combination of base loads plus the higher fuel for diesel for MEC 8 and 9 plus the 0.2% sulfur diesel. So the savings goes down to probably around 9 million. But I calculated for the 4-year period, the total savings is 49 million. And remember, Fred, this all goes to the LEAC. This doesn't go to the revenue base of GPA. So that was my point, and I think everyone's getting the message. Now the issue is we're trying to work with today I tried to work with DPW to try and see whether there's a way to separate the mitigation and the construction, because the construction, these are different people working, no? So if you stop that, all these people are not working, equipment are being rented, interest during construction for the owner. Plus, of course, you know, they won't be getting revenue until this thing is commissioned. So again, these are key leverages that we have, but also the leverage, the impact is the ratepayer, $18 million for the first year. So we're trying to work that out at this point. We've had some discussions, and hopefully it goes well. So that's the key here. But I wanted everybody to know that even though we're not negatively impacted by the mitigation, we're substantially impacted by the delay in the construction, because they can continue on and get this thing still in December. That would be a nice gift for Christmas, no? Yeah. Imagine 18 million, that wipes away all the under recovery. For the second period, we still have 7 million as targeted. Wipes that out. So if fuel oil doesn't go up, what does that mean? It's a good gift, right? So,
Yeah.
John, what's the status of, because that's 60 and there was another vendor who's doing the other 60. And how is that one proceeding?
that won't be on the line
I know,
until,
and that's higher, correct?
that's not proceeding as fast, but that's still on a target of December 2023.
Oh, okay.
And part of that is because that plan is going to upgrade the transmission line to the highest level, the 115, which is what we want to do, all the way from Dandan to PD. That will loop that part of the island, you know? Eventually, we want to construct from Dandan all the way to Aganya. When you loop that, any new renewables coming in anywhere, the cost is going to be reduced because your transmission cost component goes substantially down. So that's how we're hoping to get cheaper utility scale. So that's a long, big cost.
And that's a higher one, too.
we had to accommodate the 115, we had to get buy land over in Upper Heights. The substation is a small substation, very very important one, but no land. No? So we bought some property from the private owners, and then the Navy property that it was owned was transferred to GPA ownership. So that's why it took some time in the delay for that one. But it's now in the hands of the provider, and so trying to stick it to them to get on the line by that December 23.
And I recall that the rate on them is higher, right? No?
No, it's about 7.9%.
Oh, it's about the same?
Maybe averaging with everything, maybe closer to 8.2.
Oh, so it's about the same.
But they're
as
about the
Ketchup.
same. Yeah.
Yeah, they're about the
And
same.
that's why the commission went for that, because that was very cheap
Yeah.
energy. And all the bids after that are still higher.
Yeah.
And I think it's because the transmission system.
I remember that from the procurement appeals, the rate was significantly lower for them too. Thank you.
It's on, going back to Marble, what does the contractor gotta do? Make a hole or storm drain or typhoon,
The funding base
funding base, they gotta do that?
is done already now.
Oh, done already, oh.
Yeah. But that was part of the original plan.
We're gonna clean up the spring too.
Yeah.
Because the funding basin were exactly all functional and the right thing, the overflows occurred. But now, I think like
There's been a lot of rain, so.
2 weeks ago they had another huge rain. No issue. Even today, this,
Yeah.
I think there was like, I was watching my plant. There was that much water in my plant pot. So I said, hey, that's 2 inches of water in 1 hour. So that's my cage.
Your cage?
Yeah. So that's where it's at, and
All right.
we hope to, we hope to try and get that stop order lifted. Vince has some good, some legitimate concerns. So we're just trying to see how we satisfy both parties and move that out.
Okay.
So that's what we're trying to do.
Thank you, John. I think that's it for GPA tonight then. Thank you very much, everyone.
Okay, good night. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Thank you, GPA. Next is administrative matters. Update on bookkeeping services for PUC. Do we have something on bookkeeping services for tonight's meeting, Lou?
I'm sorry?
Update on bookkeeping?
Well, actually, we have the proposal from Benita Mengonia, but I am speaking with Commissioner Brooks that this time we don't really need it at this time. She maybe
Well,
can
it's not-
elaborate.
Here's what the issue is with Benita, because I did call her, okay, to ask her. And, whatever work she does, she actually turns it over to somebody else, okay, to do. And it's all gotta be in the cloud because the people who are doing it for her are actually back in the States or someplace like that. So, and she says, she doesn't go to clients' offices, everything is in the cloud, how she works it out. So I started talking to her about it. I've been working with Lou to try to help clean out. There's a few things still that we're working on. And from a review point of view, from my perspective, I can help her do that. The only problem is now is what we call a no-no, self-review. Who can review my work? Yeah.
What happened to
So
your
if-
proposal from Taz, Nicole?
Nicole, that's still in the binder for your review, so you maybe can discuss whether you're recommending.
Yeah. So what I didn't, I wanted to compare, because as I looked at their proposal, and stuff, and this was just, because I only met with Lou on Tuesday, and we kind of sat down. We had to go back several months, and to even, clear up September 30th, because remember, the accounts payable was off. You know, originally we had 400,000, so now she's gone the opposite direction. And she still has to work that out, because it's, instead of showing a payable of 400,000, which we didn't owe, we have a receivable on the payable of 18,000, which should never be. You know, so we're
That's why
still
we were
working.
trying to hire a third-party accountant, because also we included payroll. Remember we
No,
switched- we
payroll
switched
is
from stipends to
fine.
Payroll. Oh,
Payroll-
payroll is somebody else, Amber's doing that? or-
Yes, and that's,
So
the
looking
only,
part
the only,
is-
the only thing that was wrong was the entries that she was making, to record the transaction.
Right.
Okay, so, which I told her, no, you know, and so she has to go back from day one to correct every entry, you know, so 18 entries.
Yes.
So we're slowly working it through, and I hope to,
So all of
Count-
Mr. Kim's work that
Yeah,
he's doing,
that's what it is.
are you
All of
saying,
his
are you
work
saying you're
is
gonna
corrected.
consolidate it into your work and, or you're gonna review it?
yeah.
Okay, then we have to review that, but then you're,
Then we're gonna review yours.
no, but how, yeah, yes, you're right, though.
Yeah.
How do you, you're sitting on the same commission that's reviewing it, so.
Well, I'm trying to fix it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Right,
and,
right,
and I know what, it's not that difficult.
Okay,
It's
so
not-
but once it's
it's-
fixed, that's it?
Yeah, because these are recurring entries.
So
you
why
know.
don't we use Mr. Kim then?
That was his job that I'm fixing now.
So,
That's what he
when,
is.
prior to my coming on, I don't know who did the review.
Right. Okay.
That was.
So
Mr.
I'm
Kim's
doing
job.
the work that George is doing.
Right.
Yeah, I'm doing the work that George is
So
doing.
the last time we discussed the looking into the accounting solutions, and the blow, there was a third one, I think it was.
Mr.
So
Joe.
you're saying we don't need to hire.
We need an oversight.
We need somebody there.
Now,
Not really.
now that I'm doing George's work, someone has to review my work.
Right.
Right.
And I'm not so sure if it's a bookkeeping, you know, I haven't had a chance, you know, I've just been thinking about it.
Or have your bookkeeping services do George's work and then you review.
Yeah, no, I mean,
That way.
I need another
that way you're
CPA
just-
to really review my work, okay, because I'm not gonna have a bookkeeper review my work.
Right.
Hello?
No, that's why you have a bookkeeper do it. You have a bookkeeper do it based on your instruction, and then you sit your CPA on top of it, and then you get to have.
But it's just as easy for me to sit down and she made tremendous progress, except for, so she understands now what to do, right? And hopefully she'll be finished,
Right.
right?
Hopefully, by the next meeting.
Okay, good, take a look for, see how it
But
goes.
it's really up to you.
Okay, we'll see how that goes then.
So should we complete this project as we can and then?
Well, we may still need somebody.
Yeah.
Okay, we may still, that's why it's still an open matter, but even if before this, you know, let's get the books in order.
Yeah.
And it's almost there,
Yes.
Okay, good.
okay?
So, I guess the matter will go on to the next.
Yeah, right,
Yes.
right.
We'll
Yeah.
see we'll see how you progress
Yeah.
there.
Okay.
And then, in the meantime, I may call somebody else like Deloitte or EY to ask them, you know, what are they gonna charge to review the work that I'm doing, that I'm overseeing?
Okay. Next item is fiscal year 2020 PUC Citizen Centric Report. Fred?
Yeah, we revised the report to include some of the requests for commission.
Which is very good, thank you.
And I believe we're ready to go.
Yes,
Ready to
Ready
submit.
for publication?
yeah.
Okay. Any comments from anyone? We're good?
I have two comments.
Oh,
Oh,
go ahead, Doris.
no, not on this, on something else entirely.
Oh,
When, if the
What?
open matters.
yeah. So are we good on the citizen center?
Oh, come on.
Good. Okay. Anybody want to make a motion regarding that?
Is it something we discussed on?
We need to do that?
I don't think so.
No?
We accept it.
Except for vision
Well, accept it,
purposes.
thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Fred. Next item is, are we ready for the budget review today?
I did, because I was trying to figure out that, I didn't really
Not
look
quite
at the
yet.
budget that much, sorry.
Okay.
Yeah, so we have to do it by, and actually, by next month, the fiscal year's almost gone.
Okay.
Sorry about that, because I was concentrating
We're
more
trying
on.
to do the budget review for 2022.
No, the quarterly budget review.
That's
Oh, where we passed the original budget, you just want to see where we are.
Yes,
using
yes,
it.
yeah.
Okay. Other business, Doris, did you wanna bring something
I have
up?
two things, one is on travel and one is on solid waste, and it's now, I think, almost a year since we last presented the report, because I remember it was getting close to the end of the fiscal year of last year. So I guess my question really is more, do we ask them? I would like to know whether they're doing.
Solid waste.
Yeah, I mean, what, because there was a number of suggestions, recommendations from them, from the consultant, and, we paid, what, $300,000 for that report? And have, what is their quote plan of action, So I'm not so sure what's our role in this, our follow-up, and so that's why,
Commissioner Brooks, excuse me, can answer some of those questions. So ever since the PUC report came out, I have been in pretty close contact with Kathy Takigi, the Chief Financial Officer for Solid Waste, and the Chairman, Mr. Gale, and Manager, Mr. Gast. And originally, the hope and the plan was that the MSW report kind of served as a basis for a possible rate case and giving them sufficient revenues. But, and we had a plan, actually, a plan kind of, the report was geared so that a cost of service analysis was already included. We had some staffing studies, so all the elements of a rate case were performed. And I kind of viewed it as a procedure for a rate case that could be done pretty expeditiously. But then, of course, the issue came up about perhaps the governor providing money to solid waste to offset some of their costs. So instead of pursuing a quick rate case, and I was trying to assist them and help them with, if they could file a petition, how that process worked, and that was how I thought they were proceeding. But then based upon the offers of the governor to provide assistance, Solid Waste decided not to immediately proceed with the rate case. So it seems to me that that plan has kind of been put on hold, and I believe they're still working with the administration on issues such as mandatory service for all citizens, how much money the government might provide to offset the solid waste cost, because it's pretty clear right now, and from my interaction with Ms. Takigi, solid waste is losing money. They do not have enough revenue currently to even pay their operating expenses, and they're having to cut back on repair of equipment and vehicles and that kind of thing to finance their operations. But I think as far as the PUC role, I'm not sure at this point what further the PUC could do. I mean, we set a path that I thought was a pretty good path, but they've decided to hold back. So that's
What
where we
also
are at this
prompted
point.
me this question is because the PUC, Solid Waste owes us $100,000. They haven't paid us this year so far, and here the fiscal year is almost ending, and then gonna add that on top of what they owe us again next year, because we're only talking 2 months away of the new fiscal year, less than 2 months away before the new fiscal year ends. So we're gonna have our receivables starting to, you know.
I think we did cut their receivable from 100 down to 80. I might be mistaken.
Well, that is, yeah, but still they haven't paid a
Yeah,
dollar.
they haven't paid, and
So who was responsible for that payment? Would it have been the old receiver, or was it all?
Doesn't matter.
No,
It's
from
whoever's
Solid
in
Waste.
charge now.
Takes it over?
you know, in past years, there was one payment that was made by Department of Administration.
Yes, that's
I don't know how that worked out, but you're right, that's an issue. Another concern I have with solid waste, we've never gotten a contract review petition. Now,
Yeah.
when we were negotiating the protocol, they indicated they only have about 4 or 5 contracts maybe that exceed 750,000, but we
Well,
haven't
the biggest one is
received.
still to the receiver.
I'm sorry?
The biggest one is still to, because it's my understanding, there's still a little bit of a residual receiver. Is there still?
I think, yes, I
Yeah,
think there's
there's still a
one
residual
aspect
receiver.
involving ORDOT, the ORDOT
Yeah,
facility
right.
that's still ongoing. But, you know, that's a district court contract. We
Yeah.
never really review that one.
Okay.
That's not. But I did inform them, I wrote them a letter about a month and a half ago, just reminding them about the contract review procedure. But as far as the MSW study, I don't know what we could do further at present.
Mr. Chairman and Commissioner, what my concern is, we've spent a lot of money for this study, and we like to hear, because the rate was just one of the things. There are other operational things that they could, that was in there, that if they changed their
increasing
routing.
the customer base.
Yeah,
Yes.
and a few other things, like there was, that they could do internally, that may result into some efficiency. So really, all I wanted to do was, can we ask them, hey, give us an update of where you are and what your plans are, you know, so we don't get blindsided.
Solid Waste actually paid for the study.
I know, but still.
And it's been paid for.
Yes, but
I
still.
think they're still working on aspects. I can ask them for an update if you'd like.
Yeah, a
That's
formal
no
report from
problem.
them to hear. And see, the other thing that bothers me, okay, is that this gas guy is in Florida. He's left, and there was plans to hire somebody else.
Right.
And eventually that person was going to, come in, you know, after a reasonable transition with gas, and then gas would be totally phased out. And so, again, who's running the show?
Yeah, no, I keep in touch with Kathy Kakigi on these matters, and they, I believe, had made an offer to somebody. They were
Oh, they
in
haven't hired somebody yet.
negotiations, but maybe I can suggest to them that we need an
I think they're
update.
still looking and trying to figure out a way how to, if they were to go mandatory base to stop the polluting and dumping, kind of thing. How would
Because I talked to Sabina and the governor on that, and they're both all in favor, but it's gonna require legislation.
to do mandatory?
Yes.
Yeah. And then technically, they just have to figure out how do they bill it? Do they bill it to the water company or to the power company? What's up, or is it separate? And it's a receivable issue versus a pay, you know? It's like who carries the receivable and then the operational cost, how do you pay it back? So they're trying to figure that out. You know, how do you make it mandatory? Because the only way you can do it is to tie it into maybe the water bill. You don't pay your dump, your trash fee, your water gets cut. So that's what they're trying to figure out a way to do that.
So, like an update, you know, that's where I'm coming from. You know, they've been so quiet. I've been wondering what's happening.
Would you like me to request that they provide us an update, an
Can we
in-person?
do that?
Why don't we do that?
Yes, I think we can. All right.
Okay, thank you. And then my other issue is on travel, okay? And I talked to, the chairman about that, because how I saw the travel is when I was reviewing the financials, okay? And I guess the way it is, the chair, well, first of all, the travel policy has a couple of things in there that,
Do you have the updated travel policy, Doris, from 2019?
Yeah, and it doesn't, the one that's on the, she gave it to me, it doesn't have who approves, and it doesn't have the requirement of,
No, I don't think so.
No, it does have.
It does have.
It should have that.
well, it's not in the one that she gave me, and it's not on the one on the website.
Oh, I think it is also.
No, the one on the website says the chairman approves. Unless it's the chairman of travel.
Well, anyway, okay, what I saw is there's no requirement to submit a travel report and report back to the body, okay? And right now, what you have is the chairman approves.
There is a requirement.
There is a requirement to submit a report, the travel report, at the end of your travel.
Okay,
And
well.
which is available for the body to see, review at any time.
Doris, about 2 years
Okay.
ago, we had a number of meetings here over about a 5-month period of time between January 2019, and then we decided finally in April of 2019 to update and amend our previous travel policy. And what we had agreed on at that stage, and it was a unanimous decision, was that the chairman would authorize any travel, and for any of the chairman's travel, the vice chairman would authorize it. Before it was just open, there was nobody authorizing anything, people would just go and travel, and we felt it was important to have a point of responsibility. We also feel it's important that everybody get out and do some meetings from time to time for continuing education.
Well,
And,
Part of the policy, we encourage all the commissions to do at least 2 trainings.
okay, as of the May 1, 2019 policy that I have in here, there is nothing in here that talks about what you just said. And you did tell me that. You did tell me when I spoke to you, and which is fun. But, and it doesn't say anything about a travel report, okay? This is,
I think
if you did it, then I have the wrong policy, because this is what's on the website.
We just turned it.
Doris, here's section 14, travel report. Within 60 days of return from official travel, the traveler shall submit to the
What
PUC.
section?
14. Shall submit to the PUC a written report concerning the meeting, seminar, or course attended.
Okay, and then where's the authorization?
Authorization is section 6. Or no, section 5 and 6. First of all, travel authorization procedure requires submission of the proposal in advance to the chairman, whose prior approval is required.
you have the right one, Doris?
That's sections 5 and 6.
Say that again?
Section 5, travel authorization procedure, number 2. So the travel authorization request has to be submitted in advance to the chairman, whose prior approval is required. And for the chairman, it's the vice chairman that approves. And then section 6 on off-island travel for conferences or educational purposes. Let's see, approved by the chairman.
Okay. All right, okay. My apologies, I did not see that portion. Okay, what I would like to propose, what bothers me more is kind of like the vice chairman approving the chairman's travel. That's really what bothers me. Because I can understand the chairman, because you are our leader, okay? And what I've always been taught from an accounting perspective is an underling doesn't approve the boss's travel. The boss's travel needs to be approved by someone other than. Yeah. So what I would like to propose is instead of that, is that for commissioners only, that the body approves the travel. You can still approve the travel for Lou or the administrator.
Why?
What's the reason behind that?
Because-
It just makes it more complicated.
Yeah, it's not like,
Well,
I mean, it's a
that's,
department.
already, I know, I don't have the votes on that. That's what I think I
What
might
we're saying
prefer,
is that it's
that
always-
it,
it's been
it
fairly-
comes before the body to approve the travel of three, of any and all commissioners. Proposal, because that way, all the commissioners are a party to it, as opposed to just the commissioner, just the chairman and the vice chairman.
Doris, you were in the OPA for a long time.
Yes.
You traveled quite a bit, I would think, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
and whenever I travel, nobody approved my travel. Nobody approved my travel. What I always did was, I sent a letter to the governor and to the legislature saying, I'm gonna be off island for this period to attend such and such.
Right. I believe even the airport board, the chairman approves their travel. So it's standard for, it seems for the body that the chairman does approve it. It's like, in a private company as well. Not all the employees decide whether or not one employee gets to go. So it's based on the hierarchy. So
Anyway,
But who approved it?
but at the end of the day, whether it's, how it's been working out, it's been actually, pretty smooth. So because at the end of the day, the PUC urges, each commissioner to at least.
I'm not questioning that, but what I'm saying is, it's brought before the body overall.
well, I can tell you right now, you won't have the votes.
Yeah, obviously, I could see that.
Yeah, because 2 years ago, we went through this very extensive, over a 5-month period of time.
Because at the end of the day,
travel policy, we
he's the
have.
one responsible.
Yeah, and I don't mind being the
We
one.
point our fingers at him. If that's something goes wrong with that,
That's one of the reasons why we set it up that way, in case, anybody questioned anything, they could just come to me, and it's fine.
And I believe it's like, at the end of the day, the chairman's personally liable for, something like
No,
that.
he's not personally liable.
Now that you brought up travel, I think Pete did a little research on this, and I think we talked to you guys, since you're newer commissioners now, several times about it, but the meetings, we've always tried to encourage people who first come into the PUC to go to and prioritize initially are the rate schools in either San Diego or Tampa, Florida, Clearwater.
There's one in Clearwater on October 17th to
Yeah,
22nd.
yeah, so there's one coming up.
So
So,
you guys
if
have
you two are
personal time to
interested in
go.
going to that one in Florida, that would be a good place to go and start.
It's like, probably 5 days.
And I would highly encourage that, because those are really great meetings.
Then they give
Almost
you-
all of us have been to those
They
meetings.
give you like a mock rate.
Yeah, you do a mock rate case over a week.
And it's with all the other commissioners.
Again, see, as opposed to telling me, this is where it could be brought up like this in the open forum. That's again where I'm coming from, because
Doing that right
we
now.
are commissioners, okay, who is checking on us, okay, and how it's being checked is because it's being discussed in an open forum. It's not, okay, you go and you travel,
Well, no.
And that's where I'm
No,
coming
because,
from.
well, that's
again.
where.
That's
the-
my feeling,
But
that's just my
where the
personal
trip
feeling.
report comes in.
Huh?
That's where the report comes in. At the end of the day, if you're, after your trip, we submit our trip report, which is open to the body to review. So I understand what you're saying, but, because it's,
The one other place that is a good place to go is Lansing, Michigan, which is kind of the headquarters of Utility Commission, grade school, and so forth. They have 2 separate 1-week sessions. Some of the members have attended all 2 weeks. That's another very good one, and that's kind of the basic ones to start with. And then I think I've expressed to you that there are NARUC meetings, the parent organization of utility commissioners, that we have not, we've been a member of it for more than 30 years. And collectively, we've had 3 commissioners go to those meetings. I went to one, Elba went to one, and Andy Niven went to one.
as a matter of fact, Ella was asked to come back and permanent.
Yeah, she gave a presentation.
She gave a presentation to
And so did Andy.
the other fellow.
But, oftentimes, when I went some years ago, they wondered, where have you guys been? Because we never show up, because most of the time, most of us are too busy, we can't go to a lot of these.
Personally, it's hard.
But, I would like to
This
see.
Clearwater I went to a couple of years back, because was trying to get my rate school to understand rates and how they, figure it out. So they were actually shocked to see Guam there. They were like, you had to like take photos and stuff. Come here, finally somebody from Guam showed up.
I've been to the one in San Diego. Joey went to the San Diego one. Eldo went to San Diego. Rowena went to San Diego. It's the same meeting, but they're in two different locations. So San Diego in the spring, or Florida in the fall and October. And I will approve that if you want to go to those places.
Well, I'd have to ask Lou to send information, send us information, but I know I can go and
Yeah, my concern of what he's discussing is, what if it's approved?
I'm not gonna do that. I mean,
Okay.
That's a
if it's reasonable, I'm gonna approve it.
You're
You never know, you know? You kind of know. That's the point.
In my profession, for instance, in dentistry, we have to do 65 hours every 2 years. I typically do more than twice that amount, because it's very valuable in any profession.
Well, in my profession, it's 40 hours every year.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So-
and I usually more than double that.
So my attitude about this is, and I've expressed this from the very beginning, I was the chairman, I want you to go to meetings that are utility commissioner involved type meetings and learn. I think it's really important. And I think by not doing that or just ignoring it, it's penny wise and pound foolish. So I want you to go to at least a meeting a year if you can. Now, the members of this group sometimes have a hard time doing that because of time commitments with other things in their various business and life. So some years you just don't get away. But we want to strongly encourage that you do go.
Yeah,
So-
especially now when we have, because it's not just power.
Maybe not now.
The one I went to was power, but you got GWA, right? You got water training you can do.
Just one point on the, I can't talk without. One point is that, I know with the Lansing, Michigan, they have a lot of online, I mean, if you're interested in that. Lansing is kind of the headquarters.
Eastern time, 9 a.m. is,
Well, that's true,
it
yeah.
doesn't coincide, believe me.
All my meetings are letting them
I'm not gonna
see.
get up at midnight or 11 o'clock to
Right.
attend a class, no.
Right.
That's the problem with Guam, because we tried it one time to try to be on real life Eastern time, and it just doesn't work.
Well, you know what, Commissioner, we were talking about simple minds, I told them, I said, we're all simple. I mean, I'm like a sponge when I try to get as much information out of it as possible. Because we've got so many different, we've got 5 different things that we oversee. We've got the Port Authority, you can go to a Port Authority conference, if you want Port conference, we have a power conference, telecom conference, you can go to a water conference. Now we got solid waste, that, might be.
I don't think anybody's been to a
No,
solid waste.
just for everyone's information, I've been doing this.
Oh, so you're ready to get
I always done. Water, power, telephone, real estate, anything you want, that's got it, contact me. But anyway, I just got a comment, the course is finished, I like, just got to throw it out. This, the wording, over and under recovery. Who sets up the threshold? In order to have it over, you have to have a threshold. And to have it under, you always have a threshold. So I'm asking, who sets it up? How do we know what GPSA is under recovery if we don't have a threshold? So that's the question for now.
Yeah, but,
Or you can ask Mr. King that at the next meeting. You could ask him that tonight if you.
Because from what I'm reading from the TCU and everything that I've read,